Dr. Garber Major says there are many research projects going on, but as yet they haven't found cures for all forms of arthritis.
One of the areas that is being looked at is improvements in medications and improvements in treatments. Also, a lot of effort is being devoted to try and understand more clearly the causes of different forms of arthritis. We're really in a position where for most forms we do not know the cause. For instance, rheumatoid arthritis, we do not really know what brings it about. There are lots of suspicions about this or that might be behind it, but we do not yet have the proof of any of them. So there's obviously major interest being devoted to those fields, those points as well.
Is there very much money going into this research?
Well, obviously not enough.
The chairman of the Falcons, Warren Skelton, says the players are delighted with the prospect of having an outside backer. He says it will give the team a more professional approach and allow it to continue in the National League without financial worries. The buyer is believed to be the man who is buying for the Swans Australian rules football team, Dr. Jeffrey Edelston. If the deal comes off, Dr. Edelston and his marketing manager will each take a place on the Falcons board. Mr. Skelton is quick to point out that despite the takeover, the structure of the club will not change and it will remain in Newcastle.
I thought of the team leaving Newcastle. We can't. We represent this area in the National League, and the National League control where the teams will come from, and never a thought. We will still be controlled from Newcastle. The present board have been asked to remain in their positions, and I've been asked to remain as chairman, and we don't propose to accept anything that doesn't leave the control of the National League team associated with our association here, with the Newcastle Basketball Association, because
for the players it will mean an increase in prestige in the National League, a cash bonus if they take out the title, as well as security. Star player Ian Davies.
Somebody coming in with an influx of money that big will get the club away from an amateur status and make it into a professional club, which is what this club needs. You're looking down the track 3 or 4 years from now, and every club will have to go this way.
So you see him as a pioneer?
Right. He would definitely be a pioneer because, like I said, 6 years from now, people are going to look at him and say, well, he was the first one to do it, and they're going to follow.
The focus of the meeting will be a request from the local government department to suspend all business dealings on the Salamander Bay commercial project until local government minister Kevin Stewart has had time to consider a report into the project's finance. After speaking with department heads yesterday, Councillor Taylor has decided it would be very unwise to reject the department's request. He says the department has also asked that the council not enter into any more business commitments with Centennial Projects, the firm that was the project manager for stage 1 of the development. The minister says it will be early next month before he'll make his decision on the report known, and that delay in the development will cost the council and the project manager dearly. But despite this, Shire President Taylor says it's vital that the council adheres to the department's request.
Today, while the kids sat back and with a little help from the teacher, let their faces more than 20 children waited patiently while together they walked with cows, mock-beef and sticky. Some of
Just a little bit of white red, okay?
After the first painting, the children were introduced into the art of drama. Exercises involving mime and the imagination proved a popular activity among those attending the workshop.
What was that, Alicia?
It's fun. It's better staying home. It's better here more or less staying home.
Right, meanwhile, at the Market Square Shopping Centre in the mall, children and adults were entertained by the Woody Woodpecker Show. Compared by Trick the Clown, there were competitions and prizes to cater for everyone's taste. Balloon blowing and singing competitions seemed popular, but the most interesting was the whistling contest. And if that was difficult, then try it with a mouthful of sour biscuits. With 2 shows a day at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, it's great holiday entertainment for the kids.
This week is one of the most important on the Coffee and Chat calendar, and it culminates tonight with a public lecture at the City Hall by Australia's only Professor of Rheumatology, Professor Brooks. Some of the members of the daytime support group met to prepare for the lecture. Secretary of the Coffee and Chat organisation, Mary Loscoco, says it's often hard to entice younger people to join the association and be reassured they're not alone in their affliction.
It's terribly hard really to know what to tell people who have just discovered that they've got arthritis, because there are so many different forms of it. You don't know just how they're going to be affected, and it's such an individual thing.
But your group offers them support and lets them know that they're not alone.
Well, this is right, and they can come and see people who are a lot worse than themselves and who have learned to handle arthritis and still get on with life.
Congregations from both the Avondale College Church and Memorial Church held a combined service to mark 100 years of Seventh-day Adventism in Australia. The joint service was the first to be held since 1919. Members of the congregation reunited the tradition in March and the college to the site of the first church in the district, which has since been replaced by the Memorial Church. Many dressed in period costumes. Several veterans, including 96-year-old Emily Locke, taking part in the college's church marches in the early 1900s as students. The march was followed by a reenactment of the Sabbath School ceremony from 1885. To add to the authenticity, the lectern from the original church was used. Special guest of the ceremony was Pastor Walter Scragg, the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church throughout Australasia. Celebrations marking the centenary of Adventism in Australia continue this evening with a concert at the Memorial Church.
They swooped in over the Luscombe Tyre airfield, reliving memories of past decades and their heroes. The inaugural fly-in was organised by the Antique Aeroplane Association of Australia. For some years, the organisation has been holding events like this in Torres. The first time the fly-in had been staged in New South Wales. It was a day for enthusiasts, their families and their friends. Amongst the many Tiger Moths, Oscars and DC-3s on hand was this rare American-built Stearman biplane, which before World War II was the basic training for the American Air Force. It won the trophy for the best presented antique aircraft. The award for the most distant visitor went to the pilot of a World War II vintage Oster monoplane, which travelled from Tyab on Victoria's Mornington Peninsula. The parade of fine machinery was fleshed out by the visit of several historic motorbikes from the Newcastle Vintage Motorcycle Club. Antique air enthusiasts say they have a bond with motorcycle riders, both love the thrill of wind in the face and high-speed manoeuvres. In all, 23 aircraft attended the fly-in, an indication of renewed interest in the old bird.
People are looking back to the beautiful old days of the motor car and the motorcycle, and of course in the aviation world, the aeroplane now is not very fast in the motor. And the thing is, a lot of people just like to go back to the nostalgia of wind in the wires and the wind in the face.
And it features the country's most impressive vans. Vehicles from as far away as Canberra and Sydney have joined the best that Newcastle has to offer and proudly boast service duty features. This golden camel van is 2.5 years worth of its condition and is valued at $36,000. With its Corvette-fused spoiler, electric doors, flared guards, soft velvet and rear television set and bar, it was last year's title holder of Australia's top van. But this XJ12 Jag Bedford van is this year's judge's choice. It took 5 years in the making and is valued at more than $28,000. The series of city guard has already selected 20 persons first year sale. And for the food enthusiast, there's even a display of catalog cars. And if the bank account is healthy this week, this one's for sale. All the vans have their special features, but the ones in the companies, they're just for sale. Most of these vehicles will never venture out on the open road, and self-employed is the time to go outdoors.
Flew in this morning, accompanied by the Minister for Industry and Technology, Eric Bedford. After inspecting the site of the proposed development, he announced the formation of a high-powered advisory board for the submarine task force. The board will be headed by the chairman of AWA, Mr. John Hook, but will include Professor Cyril Rennick and Trade Source Secretary Peter Barrett. Today's visit was prompted by yesterday's announcement by the federal government that a West German and a Swedish company had been shortlisted for the project to replace the Navy's aging Oberon-class submarines. These companies have been chosen to make this project definition studies, which should be complete in 18 months. At today's news conference, Mr. Barrett also announced that BHP Engineering had been engaged to carry out a full study
and we're the most suitable place for construction. We intend, as we've said, to contribute some $30 million to the provision of a site and facilities to support this project. But we don't intend to sit on our hands, we don't intend to be complacent, we intend to do everything possible to make sure that our bid is advanced.
Although all the initiatives announced by the Minister today are good news for Newcastle, there is no promise that Newcastle will be the site. This is a state government offensive. Cockatoo Island in Sydney has also lodged a proposal to build a submarine.
The package is contained in the Chamber's state budget submission. It calls for specific funds to improve damaged roads, incentives for the hunter tourist industry, cuts on water and electricity tariffs to encourage investment in the region, and for more funds to be returned for port development. The President of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Peter
Well, specifically, one aspect of the things we're looking at is deregulation, and for government departments to be more accountable for the use of their funds and or public funds. And we're looking at MSP in that regard to suggest to them that their fee should be a fee for use, and should be based on the cost of that use rather than taxation revenue. And the same applies to all the other instrumentalities, electricity commissions and other area. It should be based, the cost to industry should be based on the cost of provision of that particular resource, not including a tax.
What do you think the chances are of the package being adopted?
I think many of the recommendations we've made will be adopted, It's a large paper. It covers many areas, as you know, tourism and so on, and decentralisation is probably one of the major thrusts of the paper. We think quite a few of the suggestions we've made will be adopted, some in the short term. We would hope that all of them will be adopted in the long term.
Having John Calbourne medical examinations, which they have to have before entry to the industry.
What new workers are you taking on?
Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock we will commence 28 or 30 new plant operators who are all current members of the FEDFA, who have been recruited in response to our advertisements, and there's some of the 500 or so people who applied.
The union has said if you took on what it describes as scab labour to replace the 73 men issued with dismissal notices, it would go on strike.
These people do not replace any of the people who are now under notice of termination of their employment. These are people we have required since last year even to add to the number of our plant operators to increase the output of the mine. None of these are replacement people.
When will employment terminate for the men?
Notices return to work tomorrow.
Now, what I'm saying now is that each person,
they'll be reinstated. Meanwhile, the National Liaison Committee is meeting in Sydney tomorrow. The FEDFA has said it will determine what course of action it intends taking after the meeting. The social morning at St Mary's Parish Centre was organised to enable elderly people from nursing homes and private houses in Charlestown to meet and enjoy each other's company. The Charlestown Caring Group organised transport for the elderly, refreshments and a variety of entertainment. Eric Norton of Dudley Menton delivered a poetry recitation, while George Robertson, also from the home, soon had the group singing along to a medley of well-loved songs. He was accompanied on the piano by Sister Regina from St Joseph's Convent. The social morning is only one of a number of services provided by the Charlestown Caring Group. These include home visiting, relief care, nursing and home aid.
From the start, the Falcons displayed their strength and dominance and raced to a 7-point lead midway through the quarter. But the Bruins, who always love a tight game with the Falcons, scored some fine team goals to level shortly after at 15-all. After a neck-and-neck tussle for the rest of the quarter, the Falcons went to the break with a handy 26-21 lead, thanks mainly to Olympian Ian Davies, who scored a valuable 3-pointer on the whistle.
3 points, that's the way to do it.
Despite running into foul trouble in the second quarter, the Falcons still dominated and turned on some great plays. The Bruins trailed 47-55 at half-time, but came out after the break with all guns blazing. Their big shots, American imports Vince Hinton and Vince Torres, showed off their work with several great baskets. The Falcons weren't to be outdone and came back strongly to lead 81-73 at three-quarter time. The tide turned again, however, and led on by the lanky Vince Kelly, who scored an incredible 27 points in the second half. The Bruins raced back into the match and cut the Falcons' lead back to just 3 points. But in the dying stages of the game, the Falcons once again came with renewed vigour, spurred by Scott Horrell and Ian Moose-Rebellious. Mike Johnson sealed the match with some fine shooting, and the Falcons are now the first team this season to hold our top spot on the NBL table for more than 1 week.
3-pointer.
The Charlestown visited by the board of the Grants Commission, showing the local between Chestnut and Maitland, the cost of the boom that didn't quite eventuate is substantial. The upgrading of the roads and the subsequent employment of extra workers all had to be done using the grants from the federal government's Short Revenue Sharing Scheme, and land rates which were restricted by a state government ceiling. Chairman of the Grants Commission, Alan Moore.
The government has just recently amended the Act to give to local government a real increase over last year of 2% after inflation. So what that means is, in terms of money, it's approximately a 9% increase on last year's allocation.
Will this be enough?
No, it's not enough to meet the problems that local government in New South Wales are facing, not by any means.
Maitland is one of the lucky councils which will be able to cope with the 9% increase, but there still won't be any room for extravagance, according to Maitland's Mayor, Alderman Ken Guy.
There'll be nothing left for any luxury items, and no doubt we'll still have to keep pulling our belts a little bit tighter and becoming more efficient.
But nevertheless, you're quite happy with this allocation?
Well, yes, we are happy to the extent that some of the rooms were going around that was going to be cut dramatically, and that doesn't look as though it's going to be the case. At least we are going to get some sort of an increase.
From the